Hello and welcome to Mastering the Machine. I'm going to be speaking in an English accent all of the webinar today because of the King's coronation. Actually, I'm not. I just always wanted to do that. In any case, today's webinar was with Ali G, and we talked about Kids PLC Kits, and thanks for hanging out. So welcome to Mastering the Machine. Our guest today is Alicia Gilpin, also known as Ali G, and some of the people attending here know exactly who she is. And we will be talking about Kids PLC Kits, which is a new program that she started. It is a 501c3, and we'll get into that a little bit after I go through all these basic things. You can see a couple pictures of the twins, Alicia Gilpin on the left and Ali G on the right. Those are pictures, of course, that I got from her LinkedIn profile. So let me see here. What is the Automation Academy? This is a membership site that I've had for about 3 years. And as part of that, I do these webinars about every 2 to 3 weeks and sometimes have guests. But for the last probably 9 months, I haven't had any guests. But Ali was a guest, I would say, 2 years ago or more. And when I was kind of first getting started. And so this is her second time on here, and we have a kind of a specific topic. But the Automation Academy is this membership site. You can find it at these websites. One of these is my blog. One of them is my company website, and the Membership Academy is under that, the Automation Academy. And what is on there? Training videos for Allen Bradley, Siemens, Beckhoff, things like that. Lots of systems integration stuff, and there is a downloadable library with lots of stuff in it. Software, all the free software that I could find pretty much anywhere, some spreadsheets, things like that. There is a community with interest groups, and you can find that down here at automationllc.com/academy or community.automationllc.com, and that's free for everybody, so anybody can join that. So without any further ado, I'm going to move into a little bit about Ali G and her program. Who is Ali G? Well, you can find her here on LinkedIn. That's probably the only place that I know that you can really find her easily. And with a lot of the rest of us who are on there, I think that's probably our main focus. She is the Director of Engineering and founder of Process and Controls Engineering, LLC. And if you want to see more about her, I did, like I said, did a webinar a couple of years ago. And on her LinkedIn profile, she also has a very extensive introduction and explanation of kind of where she came from. And I see Dan here says, Dan Ryken, Ali's biggest fan. That is way cool.
Hi, Dan.
So these are a couple pictures from her profile. And what is Kids PLC Kits? This was everything I could find from the program, from the profile, but I'm going to let Ali explain all this. The only two logos that I put on here that don't look like they directly donated, I think everybody else here, Murr and Pat Light and everybody else actually from the companies, I think donated things. Siemens and Rockwell, you know, those are big boys, and I don't think they directly donated anything as far as I know, but I'll let Ali finish that up. So I do have a bunch of pictures that I got from your profile of lots of this stuff that got donated, right? And you can talk about these as needed. They're the only other things I have on this PowerPoint showing pictures. This was just today. I think I picked this one up. But without any further ado, Ali, why don't you tell us all about Kids PLC Kits?
Sure. So where did it come from? Or I guess, what is it, right? Bottom line is it's the difference between this and like other programs that are kind of getting kids into STEM is that the idea here is to specifically empower them with like knowledge of stuff they're going to see in the field. So if they're going to, you know, if we want them to end up in manufacturing or industrial, you know, whatever, utilities, whatever uses like, you know, this stuff that I'm, you know, these logos here, like all this stuff. So industrial grade. So is what we wanted to like, how we wanted to be different. And so, I just know from my own background that, as I, in my career, learned different sensors, different platforms, as I go out into the field, like I'm so much more empowered because I know what I'm looking at. And I've seen at this point so many different types of everything, honestly, that it's just so easy for me to go like find out what that is, or, and I feel like to get kids there super early would be to give them this like something that they can hold in their hands, that's going to look exactly like what's out there when they get there. And I think that's going to be like huge, and that's kind of what the gist of it is. And where is the stuff coming from? Everyone. It originally was just like individuals, because lots of people take out machinery, and then a lot of people end up with old PLCs, HMIs, and everything. Like I have my stash. Everyone I know has a stash. So it was kind of just like reaching out and being like, hey guys, I know you have a stash. Do you want to use it? Because I know you ain't using it for anything. And we all have that stash of stuff that's like, I'm going to use this someday, but you're not. And I never did. And, and um, so that's where some of the original started coming from. And then it, became, OEMs and distributors and, bigger. And this was before it was actually a formal 501c3. So, now that we have that, like we're going to go for the big stuff. But we have to get organized, and actually we're at that point where I actually have a project manager on this now. I have like a board of directors. Courtney's on here. She's one of them. John Pillar's another one. But John Pillar's doing like development of curriculum development, because we're going to have to like, help the teachers with, the packs that we produce. And, we do produce different kinds of packs, but we can do kind of generic and then customized, versions based on different platforms. But, what we're trying to do is actually do arcade games is what we kind of came up with as like, what are we going to build with the stuff? So the kids like, and actually John Pillar has experience with this already, with like trying to do game like stuff with, controllers. And, but I actually just this morning got like this, because I made an Amazon wish list. These are all proximity switches, inductive, and it was 20 of them. And thank you to Kathy Ryan and Flexline Automation. Thank you to literally the entire community, because it just keeps coming. It's raining parts for these kids, and so it's going to be, at this point, it's okay. Well, let me back up. Elena Day, Jordan Day, Little Miss Fix It. That's the proof of concept. That's, if anyone has any doubt, like I know that I haven't shipped out that first kit yet. It's actually, I know who's getting the first set of kits. It's actually an instructor that wants a variety pack, which a lot of instructors don't want that, because if they're going to have a class, they want one controller set for like a bunch of kids, to learn together, but like the same program. So that's going to be mostly what we do. But there's anyway, what was I getting at? Parts, where are they coming from? Little Miss Fix It. So Little Miss Fix It, I was doing this on a tiny scale, where I was like, I'm gonna send a kid a PLC. And so or people. So I was sending people PLCs, because I received like PLCs, and I think it's God, I don't know. But like so all this stuff just keeps happening. And I received PLCs. I just, I was so impressed with Elena Day, because her dad is a master HVAC and like master plumber. So he obviously can like, and I believe that HVAC has the most like overlap with controls anyway. But anyway, as a trade, trades and then engineering, like that trade has so much going on that like it's easy to train those people, I think, into our stuff. But he was already playing around with stuff, and then he made his daughter a YouTube channel, because since she was 4, she was fixing the garage door. She fixed the garage door opener when she was 4, and then there are videos of her ripping out toilets and putting in new toilets, because he's a HVAC dude and a plumber. And there's she's ripping out and putting in and wiring dishwasher. Like he has her like cutting stuff with, a torch. She's, she's like sweating copper. I'm like, what? So she's doing all these amazing. I'm like, I'm gonna send them a PLC and see what happens. And what was produced, like, was so powerful. It was my calling. Like I after that, I was like, how do I get more kids, more controllers, more now? And like, how do I use my platform? Because I know so many people who make stuff. Literally, that's because I've been obsessed with that. Like, it's just part of my career. I like to know where stuff comes from. I like to know which companies produce what. And that's always been a big thing, like in the back of my mind. Even though I was doing engineering, I had my favorites. Like, I've always loved Phoenix contact stuff. And so some of these companies I had a preference for anyway, because I had seen more of it as in my earlier career, which goes back to like how this is actually going to, if you donate, it's actually going to help you in your own marketing of the future. But part of my pitch of how to get like to more donations. Um, but yeah, so that video was so powerful of Elena, and I keep watching it like because I watch it again and again, and I'm like, she's so amazing. She's like measuring the panduit. She's like, and then she cuts it, so it's the right size for her. She built a panel and it's in her room. And what I didn't expect, okay, I did send a 24-volt DC solenoid. So I kind of made up the PLC kit minimums in my head a long time ago before I like made it a full thing. And like now I've added more to like what I think a kit should have. Like I don't think I sent her a proximity switch, but it had a 24-volt DC solenoid. And when she got it, her dad had an air compressor at home, and I didn't know that, and he plumbed air to it so she could push a little air rocket with her HMI. So I sent her an HMI PLC. It was a micro 850 starter pack. So Alan Bradley, like she has Alan Bradley programming experience. She's 10 years old, which is, I can't not keep going after that. She's not my kid, but it's so freaking cool, and everyone else thinks it's cool too. And so I'm like, all right, people, we got to do this. And so I started asking. I have a platform. It has a lot of followers on it, and then I actually started spamming companies that I know have stuff I want, and being like, hey, tradie, maybe. And a lot of them are like, absolutely. We're so happy you're doing this. And so the donations have just been like obscene to me. And I know they're going to be better because I can actually provide the paperwork now to be like, hey, for them to write off, tax write-offs. I haven't had that up till now. So look at these incredible gifts. Patlight, I love Patlight. Patlight is beautiful. But I think Patlight is a Japanese company, but they make stack lights, and they make beautiful every kind of stack light. And they sent me maybe like $2,000 worth of brand new merchandise for these kids. So these beacons and these stack lights, like they're gonna go all over the place. And I took the liberty of turning all of them on, to get people pumped, right? Like, because I gotta kind of show the equipment. If I leave everything in the boxes, like it's not going to get people freaking out because they don't know what's in the box. I'm like, if I say here's a bunch of boxes and like big Pat light, like it's just not going to do, except, okay, Dale, I didn't take everything out of the like the 1769 because I shouldn't do that. Like I want us to have some kids like be able to open, that stuff. Look at those factory seals. That was very generous. This is Dale Parker. Look at all this Alan Bradley stuff. Now, people are asking me, how are we going to deal with the licensing? We have ways. So some of these teachers actually have like robots and other things, and they have like Rockwell stuff. So it's going to be easier for us to figure that out with them. And then in other cases, we're going to if it gets big enough, and it will, we're going to have to go through distributors and figure out the local distributor for those kids. Like, how are we going to get the licensing? Is like, can we get discounts? Like what can we do there? And we'll try to use the platform to, trade for marketing, but, we're going to do whatever we can to figure that out for some of the more expensive stuff. But actually Siemens, you said Siemens and like Rockwell are big players. Siemens is actually Siemens education lead program manager, Amanda Beaton, is actually reached out to me already. So I think we're actually going to get licensing and controllers from Siemens, which yeah, shout out, amazing. Now they have to do it. And I'm just kidding. They were going to do it anyway, but yeah, like the names Ultra Automation, that's actually started by ICE, by Brett Young. It's Integrated Controls and Engineering. ICE, it's in Missouri. Or no, it's in Kansas. I'm sorry. I get them mixed up, okay? Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Mo, and I'm seriously get that stuff messed up. Yeah, and Mavens, Automation Ladies, I have a podcast. I know I have a lot of things going on. I have a nonprofit. I have a business that I have to like put food on the table with. And then I, have to also, because I'm obsessed with this now. That's how people ask me, like, how do you have the time? I mean, I don't, but I make it. I will add, like, I don't have children. I have 3 cats, so I have more time to do stuff, right? I'm not missing out on like kids growing up or anything. Because I know that, takes, way more dedication than, yeah. So, yeah, so that's what I'm doing, is spending my time doing this stuff, doing the podcast stuff. I'm going to hit automate with this really hard, because I'm going to have all the vendors in my face and I'm going to be like, so these guys helped me and it was so nice. Is there any way you could too? Yeah, I've been talking. Does anyone have questions? This is only in its infancy, but it is an actual 503, because all you have to do is like pay legal Zoom to go file that stuff for you. So it is real, and it's legal and everything. And
I do have a comment here. One of the things you mentioned, a lot of the STEM programs in high school, you're right, they don't use actual products. They'll get into Arduino, Raspberry Pi. They'll use, Legos, or even some of the Fisher technique stuff that I've talked about on here before, but they don't get into what real PLCs are. And a lot of the projects they do aren't, industrial in nature. And I think by the time people are, juniors, seniors in high school, if they're going to be moving into the automation trade, they need to be understanding what the real components are and using some of the software. You also mentioned Alan Bradley in particular. I've done a lot of equipment for some of these junior colleges and things like that, and that's one of the problems. They may get local distributors that will sponsor some software, but as far as I know, Alan Bradley doesn't exactly give anything away, right? Nope. Those licenses cost something, whereas Siemens has been a little bit more forthcoming about giving schools some licenses, and I think that's an admirable thing that they do. But yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with them, as I've explained on my own platform.
So if I may interject here, as a longtime Rockwell distributor specialist, one of the things I would like to mention is that Rockwell does offer educational toolkits at a severe discount. I mean, almost giving the stuff away, and also super discounts on the hardware. And you just got to get your account representative and your distributor specialist on board, because, if you're buying an educational toolkit and you start buying 10 seats of that, you might end up with toolkit pricing that's like 10% of what you would buy it for as a SI toolkit off the street. So I'm not in a position to help with that anymore. But
sure. Thank you, though.
if you get to your distributor specialist and get them involved and say, hey, I want to get this particular university or trade school on the educational toolkit program, Rockwell does have it in place, and the discounts are pretty ridiculous. And part of that is Rockwell's giving it away at a cheap discount. Also, the distributors are eating all the profit margin. Like we sold those at like 5%. I mean, it was really low, and then allowed people, local community colleges, things to get into the ball game. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there for my years of being a Rockwell distributor specialist.
Yeah, interestingly, I was also a specialist back in the 90s when they first went into the plant, started counting PLCs. So I've been a part of that, and I found as a small company, it was a lot harder to get the distributors behind me. Whereas the larger companies that I deal with now, Automation NTH and people like that, they work with MTSU, local university, and the TCAT centers, and they're able to pull a little more weight because they buy millions of dollars worth of equipment. But as a small integrator, it was much, much more difficult. Hence my love-hate comment. So kind of been there, but this is awesome.
I love hate Rockwell too. Literally all of my money that I make is from servicing Rockwell products. So it's not like I call Rockwell all the time, and it's actually nice that my customers are big enough that they have, ISA contracts. So I just, on behalf of my customer, have access to Rockwell everything, which is really nice, but it's because it's through and that's also why I can make the comments that I make, complaining the way that I do, because I actually don't, I'm never going to get good pricing directly for my company with Rockwell, just because of the way that I, operate out there. But I think, there's, I do not talk about Rockwell products because that's unfair to my base, my followers. All of the US uses Rockwell automation, so I need to show them Rockwell everything as much as possible. I just show them other things. But these kids need to learn Rockwell, period. So even if we get them other PLCs, like we kind of need them to, learn how to use, ladder logic, and like it's going to end up being there because they're such a strong player in the market. You can argue all day long whether that's what it should be or not, but it's what it is. And they're not getting kicked out anytime soon. I know like Siemens is doing, lots of that. I got into Siemens by buying the cheapest kit. I was like blown away. I was like, I just got a PLC, like a S7 1200, a PLC, a little, KPT 400, like a 4-inch screen, and the licensing for TIA Portal. I think it was version 16, like the base TIA Portal, but all of that was $600. And I was like, I can't even buy a power supply from Allen Bradley for $600. Like, if I could buy that whole starter kit, I was like, okay, that's neat. And I started, going into TIA Portal, and I fell in love because they have fixed TIA Portal and Step 7 since the days where people were like, this sucks. And they actually went back and said, okay, why does it suck? Because we need to get into that market. So they fixed it. And so that does like magical things. For example, like I plug into the network and it tells me what's in there. And they're like, by the way, would you like me to fix your IP address so that you can talk to all these devices? Let me just do that for you real quick. And I'm like, excuse me? Because I'm Rockwell everything. All I've ever known is Allen Bradley everything. All I've ever known is Studio 5000 or, RS Logix 5 or RS Logix 500. That is all I've ever used. And so I just kind of really liked getting into TIA Portal, but I do strongly feel that like true integrators need to know how to use more than one platform. But every integrator in the US absolutely has to be able to do some Rockwell. They're going to call you and it's probably a Rockwell PLC in there. I get called sometimes and I'll see like Automation Direct or other things in the US. I've never come across an Omron. I know Courtney does, but Automation Direct I definitely come across, but Rockwell everything else. And my bread and butter, how I make my money is servicing Rockwell. So, that's why people are like, oh, she's edgy because she like talks crap. I'm like, I'm not talking crap. I'm making, people want to say this stuff anyway. And there's things that Rockwell can do. And I think they're trying to, they're just so big. And I think, I don't know. I know that like back in the day, it used to be like a real blue collar company. But that was Allen Bradley. not Rockwell. Rockwell Automation is like this giant thing.
Yeah.
That kind of changed the feel of all that. But anyway, Kids PLC Kits has to have Allen Bradley parts, but there's also opportunity for every single other vendor to get their controllers in there, their HMIs, their instrumentation. I'm getting proximity switches, solenoids. I do want pneumatics to be part of this. So I do have on my Amazon wish list, I have pneumatic or actuators, linear actuators. I got little reed switches to put on them. So I want to do like full mechatronics with this Kids PLC Kits. I almost called it like mechatronics, you know, or something else like kids mechatronics. And like we had people vote and everyone was like, no one knows what all that other stuff is, but Kids PLC Kits is like specific. I'm like, okay, whatever. We don't have a logo yet, but I'm like working on it. It's gonna have like a robot and like, I don't know, just tech stuff, STEM looking stuff, you know. Maybe it'll be orange. I don't really know yet. I did buy kidsplckits.org. So I have the website. I just need to pay someone to put all these pictures on it. Look, I should just take like copy and paste your presentation. I do actually have a project manager, Liza, is I think on here. She's tracking all this stuff now, and she's like managing the different, because I'm the business development for Kids PLC Kits. Because this is the other part I didn't say. So I made up a slogan. It's if the kid's free, the kit's free. So if public schools can have free kits, but we can sell kits to people too. And so what we'll do is, you know, I'll work with these partners here, and I will get, you know, discounted stuff. And because a nonprofit can't make money, but it needs to make money to operate. So at the end of the year, it can't make money, but I can sell things. And so we want to sell these kits because I got like a list of 30 dads who are like, I gotta get my kid one of these kits. And I'm like, okay, but why don't you just get me into their school? They're like, no, I want my kid in this kit. I'm like, okay. So I gotta get, you know, people and or schools that charge tuition, you know, like nice schools can pay for kits. And you know, public schools. So if the kid's free, the kid's free. That's how we're going to kind of like move the stuff around and make sure, because we need a lot of shipping money. This stuff is heavy. Like we got copper and everything, you know, because it's electronics, industrial electronics, even worse. So, you know, these stack lights they're beefy. Everything's a little bit beefier than, you know, your Arduinos and your Raspberry Pis. Yeah, look at this stuff. Some of these like enclosures. And once you put a whole kit together, or multiple kits, because like multiple kits go to like one teacher, you know, I need shipping money. Okay, so that's why I'm going to charge people, and they're just going to have to get over it. But But the reason for like giving it free to a school is because they're going to reuse it. So more kids are going to go in there, learn stuff, go out to the world, go in there, learn stuff. Like it's going to churn out more. It's more reach. So it should be free for more reach. And then if you have like a bunch of money in your school, well, then you should buy the kids. You know, if your kids, yeah, if you pay for your kids' tuition, you should tell your school that you should buy these kits from me.
I noticed you had, I think, Gwinnett County. Is that going to be your first kind of target? You mentioned before, I think
is that in
Georgia?
Lynchburg? Oh yeah, that's one of the three. So I have three. He's not the first, but he's like the third or second. But he's like part of the. It's Brandon Myers is the teacher that I'm working with, and I'm also working with Danny Murphy, and I'm working with Cara Branch.
I think so a fan has a question for you.
Oh yeah.
You can complete. I can ask it in a second. No problem. You can just finish your point.
Oh no, I lost it.
All right.
But I'll bring it back again. So yeah, just whatever you think.
Okay. Thank you, Frank, for setting this up. Just a quick intro about me. I work as a junior electrical engineer in instrumentation and controls in Wood. You might have heard about the company Wood Canada. Used to be Amick Foster Wheeler down here in Canada. So I'm in Canada right now. So I had a couple questions for you. And sorry, I might not be pronouncing your name right. Is it Ali? Am I saying it right? Okay.
Yeah, Allie.
So okay, I was just wondering. So how do you market your kits? Do you go to public schools? You mentioned you had a list of parents interested. Did you reach out to like parents directly, or
So,
how do you market? And I do have
um,
another question.
yeah,
And what kind of projects do kids do with your kids? If
okay.
you might have touched
So
upon that, but if you could do it again.
yeah, it's brand. So this is it's in its infancy, but the types of projects are actually John Pillar came up with this. Is going to be arcade games. Because we can use all of the like proximity switches, like pneumatics, like we can make games, or you can like do karate chop in front of a photo I-beam, and like kids can play each other. So we're gonna have them create a game where they play each other with these like some kind of arcade type game. Like we have push buttons, so you could push the button a million times, and like the input's gonna count them. Like there's all kinds of things that we can do with uh arcade type of game because it's physical, right? So we have yeah, the proximity switches and all that stuff. But and then how do I market? So I'm blessed to have 52,000 followers on LinkedIn. So I can just kind of ask that way. And that's basically how I've been able to get everyone to even know what's going on, is because they're already, following, because I have a podcast, and, I created a company. And how I kind of got into LinkedIn to even, get that following. Like, how does that, because that following is actually controls and like automation and manufacturing related following, is because for 10 years, it's a 10-year-old account. For 10 years, when I was an engineer, I was so obsessed with like finding these videos on YouTube that I was like, I wish I had these YouTube videos when I was in college, because now you can see the inside of everything. And it's so cool. Like inside a centrifuge, inside a turbine, inside of it, like as it's moving, like the animations are amazing. So those got me into posting. So I was like a curator of technical stuff from YouTube, but it was related always. So I would post videos of programming, videos of instrumentation, videos of the equipment, like how the equipment actually works, valves, like process stuff, robotics. Like I don't care. I don't have they're like, what's your specialty? I'm like, do I have to have one? Like,
You would just share whatever knowledge you
yeah,
had.
I share everything. And that's how the following just kept growing. And I never put myself in any of the pictures or any of because I was just like curating other stuff, right? And when I started making my own content, that following exploded. Because people had never seen like this. I made it a point that like I'd never seen a woman with everybody's got PLCs behind them. There's all kinds of men that do this, PLCs, HMIs, whatever. Like they have their whole board of stuff and switches and communications and their ICS lab and their blah, blah, blah. So everybody has one. And I was like, girls can't even like go on the internet and find a girl that does that. I want more girls to do it. There are tons of women who have PLCs. They're just not showing it to the world. So it doesn't look like that's what girls get into, and girls love this stuff. So that, that's kind of where I started getting, I'm going to start making content. And then it blew up. And so now it's, I think when I started making content, I was at like 10,000 followers, and now I have 52, and it keeps growing every day. I think the algorithm just keeps like because I have all the right wording, right? I PLC, HMI, engineering, controls, automation, systems integration, all those words. So they just like spits it out to all these people all over the world. So my following is actually international, which I'm so blessed about, because I can ask, I'm like, oh, I don't have any Omron software. And like the guy from New Zealand send me software. So I know people from Africa. I know people like my intern is from Nigeria. I work with people that are from, like I have a huge following from Algeria. I don't know why, but the algorithm, there's a lot of people in Algeria that like love controls, and they ended up being in my, feed. They found my feed. And so I have all this following of people that just want to see, by the way, controls is the same all over the world. I came from Mexico, and, I have entire Mexican following too, that, that we're all using all the same stuff. They're using Siemens everything. Like it's cool.
So Dan mentioned the turbo encabulator. Is that behind you?
Yeah,
I see the lights.
Here. Yeah, but it's up there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's not currently powered on. It has a second rosary now. That thing is very blessed. It has blessed me for sure. Yeah, that was like my first like making content. The beginning of me making content was I'm like, I'm gonna like, rip this thing out and put holes in it. It was a case for like an X-Tech manometer. And I'm like, I'm gonna put buttons in here because it was kind of big. And I'm like, and I put an S7 1200 in there, and I didn't have a drawing. I just like wired it, and people are like, where's your drawing? I'm like, I just wired it, with my head. And they're like, how can you do that? And I'm like, okay. I've been doing this. Like, yeah, so I did have a one of those moments where as an engineer, like, because I'm a woman, right? They're just like, does she know, or is she like faking it? And I had one of my biggest panels, and the guys like in the shop, like they know that I did that stuff, but those guys in the shop are helping me like put the panel in the box, and a mechanical engineer who's like new comes over, and he's kind of an older gentleman, and he looks at me and he looks at the panel. He's like, do you know what all's going on in there? And I designed the entire thing, right? It was like 50 pages of AutoCAD, and I bought it all, and like I designed the entire thing. And he's like, do you know what all is going on in there? And I was just like, yeah. And I was really nice. Like I didn't blow up. Now I blow up on people. But I didn't. I was super nice. I was just like, yeah, I do. Thank you for caring. So I do have a background in building panels. I actually ran a UL 508A shop. I got a shop certified to be UL, which is not the easiest task in the world for a chemical engineer to do. And I did that. And my background is chemical engineering, but I decided that controls was in my way, so now I do controls too. I actually love it. I'm obsessed. And I want all the kids to be obsessed too. So that's why these Kids PLC kits are going to be dope. But that's kind of where my marketing came from, is I already have a strong PLC background and a marketing background. And so, I'm just combining all the powers for these kids, and I'm so happy that the community is like, oh yes, here's stuff. In every way. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's they buy the stuff off Amazon. Like that's what all these, like I got 20 of these today from Amazon, from Flexline. Stack lights, solenoids, actuators, tubing, fittings, because we got to do like fittings for all those, like it's mostly like 1/4 inch. Yeah, that's a little gripper. That hack thing right there is a gripper. I was like, oh my god. We could. It's too far. We just got to get our baseline going, like get, our money flow, and then we can do this. But
for people that see this on YouTube and aren't a part of LinkedIn, and you've mentioned that you're going to have kidsplckits.org. What is another good way to get in touch with you if people do want to donate or get involved?
Well, if they can go on LinkedIn, or email me. I need to make I do have the .org email, so I just don't. Can we put it in the link later? Let me just set that up.
If you can do it like today, because I put this up on YouTube by Sunday. So
I will.
Okay. Or we can always go. What is it? PCE-LLC.
Oh yes, actually, just do that. PCE.LLC. Yeah, that right there.
Okay, so that's probably the best link right there. HTTPS PCE LLC, and people can leave a message on there or something, and you'll get it. Okay.
Good thinking. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or anything?
And if people want to volunteer too, that's good. That's cool.
What sparked your interest in this towards this? Because you had a chemical background, so how did you sort of pivot this way?
Oh, like originally, why did I go into controls?
Yeah.
So two things. One was the fact that as a process engineer, I would buy stuff like pumps, valves, whatever systems, right? And I would create the functional narrative slash like the controls narrative. And then I would go out, you know, into the field, and I would be really frustrated because the controls guy hadn't done anything. So I can't do anything with, I can't, there's no HMI buttons for me to do stuff with my valve. There's no way for me to start and stop any pumps. There's basically like, I don't even know anything about wiring, right? I just know that like that pump has, you know, 480 or 230. And that's the maximum that I know about electricity, never much less controls. And so that, you know, it was in my way and I wanted to do that stuff. So that was part of it. And the other part was there was a huge layoff and they scared me. And so I was like frantic. And, you know, who found me, luckily, was a humongous systems integrator that is now owned by Rockwell. But at the time, it was platform agnostic, called Maverick Technologies. And that's who, you know, they found me. And I was super interested because I was like, oh, I know I've worked with controls engineers before. Like, I know I've done like loop checks. Like, I could say enough, I could talk the talk that they were like, yeah, we'll hire you, because they were hiring straight out of college. So I actually came in as a lateral move, no more money, but I was like safe again. And I was like, you know what? I'll try controls. You know, I was really happy as a process engineer, but I was like tormented by this layoff. And I was just like, and nobody wanted a process engineer with my background. They're like, we don't care. No one would call me back. Like, it just sucked. And then, you know, this one company was like, well, she's a process engineer. She knows piping and she's bought like automation stuff, like instrumentation. I bought pressure transmitters. I've bought, you know, this stuff. So I was like, well, I talked to them and, you know, and I could tell my manager stuff about cavitation and how I had heard that before. And he was like, oh, super impressed. So he was like, okay, I'm going to hire this kid who's a little bit older, because I was 3.5 years out and I was basically hired on with like 15 other kids right out of school, but I had that extra 3.5 years. And so I just kicked ass in that role. I actually brought a customer in, which was my old employer. I was like, hey, I can do controls for you. Even though I couldn't, but I got the company to do it. So I was like kind of doing business even before I was like good at it, which I'm not actually. Like, I'm still totally learning. But yeah, like that's how I ended up over into a controls role, and then I was obsessed. So I was already really good at, like, I had a whole like list of equipment lists, right? But like I was so pretty much close to building a bill of material for a control panel already. I just had never messed with that hardware. So I had the process down in my head already, and it was so natural for me to just be like, well, I'm just going to be super detailed over in this area instead of in this whole plant. Because I had like every valve, every solenoid on the valve, every part number, every spec, every pressure, everything. And so if, you know, I was like, well, I just got to figure out what they're doing over here. And, you know, it was like pipes and wires were the same to me. And I started like figuring shit out. And eventually I got out into the field and started wiring. And the guy who taught me wiring, like he was so angry because he wanted me to be like better, but I actually got really smart really fast. And so I blew him away. But I would like wire stuff totally wrong. I'm like, well, the drawing said that. And he's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you put like, I would just ground stuff or like short stuff, because I had no idea what I was doing. And I learned like, okay, you know, if I don't have a neutral on here, it's not going to do the thing. Like, it won't even light up. Like, I had to learn really the hard way because I'm a chemical engineer. Like, so electricity was fun to figure out. But I did it, and now I can design control panels. And it's not because I know anything about like how AC power works. It's because I know how to use Legos. Like, I know how to read a manual. I know how to, you know, and I have experience. So I got obsessed really fast, and it was a very easy transition because I had already been partially exposed to that kind of stuff. Yeah, Courtney learned the same way. she says. Because she's an electrical engineer. But she's got to go learn like pneumatics and like all that other crap. Because they're not going to teach you, you know, pneumatics in your electrical class. And then in my chemical engineering class, I learned V equals IR. You know, I got Ohm's law in. That's why I was like, why does it neutral have to be here? I have the power on there.
I'd say
Nice.
I'm learning the same way too. I'm an EE as well, and then so we do a lot of that on paper, but it's just a whole different thing being in the field and wiring something and actually seeing it, right? Doing it with your hands. So, but yeah, I mean, I could relate. Okay, you know what a valve is, but when you actually see it in person, it looks completely different than on a P&ID. So, so no, I completely
Purchasing.
understand that.
How about
Yeah.
purchasing a valve? That
Yeah.
blew my mind. I was the first thing I ever had to buy as a process engineer. And this kind of made me mad about like engineering school. Because I'm like, you guys didn't prepare me for this. And I had to learn everything completely. And I know everyone else does too. It's not just me, I'm special, but yeah, like buying something, they're like, Allie, you're a process engineer, we need a flow meter. And I'm like, from where? And they're like, from the flow meter store. Okay. And they found me a guy who sells instrumentation. And I'm like, okay. So I went to him, and he ended up being like the most expensive guy in town. But I learned a lot more about like procurement and like price negotiation later. But this was like my beginning, my humble beginnings, right? I'm like, okay. So I go to the guy, and then he's like, okay, what kind of flow rate do you need? I'm like, you know, what flow rate do I need? He was like, do you want flanged or threaded? And I was like, what's a flange? What? And then I would go to my boss, and he's like, I have no idea. He's like, you're the process engineer, like pick one. And I'm like, so I would just go pick stuff, which is, you know, terrible. And I learned so much from doing wrong. And I would get yelled at by maintenance. Maintenance would be like, why would you buy this pump at this voltage? I don't have any 230 over here. I'm like, there were two options, and I went with the lower one. You know, there was just so much to it that I learned so the hard way. I let some plumbers put in some bad piping and got some crazy cavitation on a pump. So I had to have them rip it out because they had an elbow like right up on the damn inlet of the pump. And so I had some wild cavitation. I was going to ruin that thing. And so I had to have them replumb the damn thing. And so it just, you know, it costs money to teach these people how to do this stuff. And I know that now, you know, in retrospect, because I have a company now, and I gotta let people mess up in my name. And it's all goes full circle, I think. Because I definitely costed people some money. I blew up a VFD once, because I was being rushed, and they were like, Allie, I want to run this fan, and the guy whose project it was, whose roaster it was not there. So they're like, Allie, come over here. And I'm not even an electrician, which is the other part of the problem. And they're like, Allie, hook up the 480 to this. And I'm like, okay. And I'm rushed, and I go find a pigtail for 480, and I like find the socket. I do the whole thing, light it up, and it's a 230 panel. It's the only one that's a 230 panel, but I put 480 on it. And as soon as I lit it up, I blew up the drive. I blew up the PLC fuse, power supply fuse, just evaporated. And then the fuses on the control transformer. So on the primary, those two were like, they're CC fuses. Those I had to go run around town, find CC fuses. And then order, you know, another power flex. It was a 230 rated power flex. And yeah, that was really embarrassing. And then and it like popped, right? Like you hear as soon as I blow it all, and it's inside of the shop. So everyone goes like, you know, what just happened? And everyone's looking at me, and it was like the most embarrassing thing ever. And my mom took the two fuses, because I kept them, and she like glued them together and made a necklace. And she's like, you got to remember to always check the nameplate. So I have a necklace of these fuses. There's two CC fuses. To remind me that like you don't put power to anything without checking the damn nameplate. But I don't even put power to things now because I'm not a licensed electrician. And I shouldn't have been doing that. But OEMs operate funky. And so they will ask you as an engineer, they'll be like, you know, stuff that I was introduced because I came in as a controls technician. I have been introduced as an electrician. I'm like, wait, no, that's not, no. Like, I would love to have an electrician license, but I am not licensed to pull power from anywhere, and I should not be hooking up 480. And you know, I've even wired, yeah, we're not going to talk about it, all the illegal things. Cut that out of the YouTube video.
So if I was going to interject here, Allie, I mean, I've been at this 38 years and I learn every day. You know, I was a distributor. Yeah, I mean, I was a distributor specialist that ran the shop in the steel mill. Now I'm in the gas fields, as you know. You know, I'm posting stuff from the gas fields, and there's so many things that when it came to being in natural gas space, yeah, the base control stuff was, you know, the same. But I had to get in deep to figure out how to help with the electrical construction on all this stuff, because it's kind of funny. Our company is so small that when I came in, I was going to help with automation. And because I had run big projects in the steel mills, my boss, Jim Sutterfield, he goes, you know, you're the best guy in the shop to run the electrician crew. So he said, how about doing all the installs? So now I do project management for all of our sites. And I haven't, I uninstalled all the software off my computer. Like I'm never writing another line of code. I'm done. And everybody's like, but you've been doing this forever. I'm like, but yeah. But where the need is for my small company that I work for now is the construction side. If we don't build it right, the programmers can't get it going. So because I did the programming in the past, I've taken those experiences and spun them into being able to build things. So that's part of why your program is so cool, is that people start at the grassroots level and learn how to build something, even if it's very small in the shop, and turn on 2 green lights and snap a valve on and off. That's the beginning of everything. And that's where we all learned. I learned from tremendous guys when I was a young dude. I was a CAD drafter, and then they gave me little projects. And then I could do a little bit bigger project, and then just evolved into big stuff. So yeah, that's part of why I'm on board with you, because I was there many, many years ago, and I want to be part of this. And I think it's important for all of us with a little bit of experience to jump on board with you, you know, to help promote everything that we're trying to do here.
Everyone has been, not everyone, but like, it's so many people, and more people keep finding it, and they're like, I love that. And then they just, you know, throw stuff at it. And it's even a little bit helps. You know, she went and bought 10 packs of these, like two packs at once, like, you know, or, you know, these, the terminal blocks that you saw there, boxes of terminal blocks, you know, $30, you know, thank you, you know, like that's good enough if that's all you can give. But people have been just so generous, just with, you know, their $30 or their $100 or their you know, their spare parts that they know they're not going to use, that has been sitting there looking at them. They're like, we should use that to control something. And then there are people that donate, and they're like, I don't even want to shout out, because like I don't want my company like giving me crap about like donating stuff. So here's the parts, and don't, you know, or just people that are just straight up like, I don't want any shout out, please, like just no publicity, please. But here's the parts. And I'm like, okay, thank you so much. Some of those people, like I'll send them stuff like separately and just say, hey, we're friends. Just because I, you know, really appreciate that. But because I don't give them anything for it. Like, at least I feel like the shout out is something that I can give back for the donation. And yeah, so everyone's just been so amazing. And, you know, and then as soon as, you know, someone get like, you know, like Dale, you know, if Dale gives a bunch of PLCs like that, that people will be like, well, I want to give stuff that badass, like, or like, you know, one company will give some, and they're like, well, now this company's got to step up their game, you know. So it kind of just like, in a friendly way, everyone is, you know, supporting this, but also no one's getting mad and being like, well, Allie, you know, you need to just, you know, because Automation Ladies is sponsored by this or that. Like, this is helping everybody. So I'm taking it from everybody. There is no, oh, we don't associate with this brand or this brand. We're like, no, we're helping kids. This is free stuff. Everybody's stuff counts. Like every button, it doesn't, some of this stuff is like cheaper stuff. Like the Amazon stuff is obviously not, if it's from Amazon, come on. It's still industrial, or at least it looks like it. I don't know that it's going to last forever, but it doesn't need to. It just needs to work as a proximity switch and look like one for the kids to like get it. And yeah, look, Simone sent, they have like their own kits. And so they are like, okay, here's a little HMI, a PLC, an Omron power supply, because they don't make everything, right? Like they have those the blue beacons and start and stop push button. That's just like their own kit. So like, yeah, their output is that like those relays down there. There's like 4 solid state side automation direct down there. I think that's what that is. And what? Oh, and 3 pilot lights. And that was their version. And then they had like hats. They sent hats, so I guess someone's getting a hat from each kit. But I've been adding kids, where are they? These like stickers of kids robot stickers is what I'm gonna add to there. Oh, you add more swag. Yeah,
That's right.
they're like robot stickers. Because people love robots. Like I really like this one. It's so cute. Yeah, I'm super getting into swag, obviously. Like I have a podcast and my company. And now I have this Kids PLC kit. So I guess I'm big into marketing. And people like that stuff though. If people didn't like it so much and the reaction wasn't so good to like literally a shirt or a pen with something written on it, if they didn't react so happily to it, it would not be as addicting as it is. But people are like, oh, this hat, or like I like making people happy.
Well, we also I think a couple of weeks ago we talked a little bit about this, and I'd thought about sending some of my stuff, but unfortunately I teach. A lot of what I do is in-person teaching. And so a lot of my stuff, you were saying, people have stuff laying around that doesn't get used. I would say, I pull stuff out all the time that for whatever reason ends up getting used. But one thing I would like to mention here, you were talking about where the curriculum comes from. I'm going to plug my books here. These are available, of course, online, but little known fact, I have PDFs of this material. This book in particular is separated into 26 sections, and I'm happy to send this to you. And you can distribute it as widely as you want to. And so you talked about things like the motor phasing and what are these products, hydraulics, pneumatics, and they're literally written at a high school level. I write these books on purpose that way. I do not make them available as ebooks because they get, if you do that, they end up on the internet free within, I would say, 2 weeks of when you'll do it. Even my first book was McGraw-Hill, and it was on the internet for free. Somebody had put it on there, and the ebook, and so I will send you those. And if people need to use those for curriculum, they're free to distribute, and it's just like having that $50 book for free. So you can send that to whoever you need to. I encourage people using that in schools and things. But anyway, so it's been about an hour here, and again, this is something that I do every 2 to 3 weeks. Kind of wrap it up, and we will we can talk afterward. Sometimes I do that and have a little after group thing. The next webinar will be probably May 20th, could be May 27th, which is, I think, Memorial Day weekend. I'm in LA the week before May 20th, actually teaching a PLC class, and it is Alan Bradley. So I do, like you, I make probably, 50% or more of my income based on their products, whether it's through Automation NTH or some of the other folks. But still, you have that. I wish they had a cheap version of 5000. You can get the 500 stuff for free, There is a free version of the software. I don't know if they make it available anymore, but you can program the 1100s and the 1000s, which I believe are both obsolete. But the software is free for those. I can also make you that available to you, but I'm not sure people can get the 1000s or the 1100s anymore. But there is a free version of that software. In any case, the next webinar will be either the 20th or the 27th. And I don't know what the topic will be yet. Like I said, this is the first guest I've had in a while, but thanks for showing up. And I'm going to go ahead and shut down the screen share, and we can talk a little bit offline here.